Part 3. Trust in the unknown as their communication deepens. Ethan must decide whether to trust Nadia's increasingly personal revelations while government agents begin investigating unusual signals in the area. Part 4. Countdown to contact. With authorities closing in, Ethan works to help Nadia navigate her ship to a remote landing location while confronting his growing feelings for someone he's never seen. Part 5. Beyond the stars. Ethan and Nadia finally meet face to face, confronting both their differences and the unexpected connection they've formed across the vastness of space. Now, I'll begin writing the story parts. Part 1. The forgotten signal, the broken glass crunched under. Ethan reads boots as he navigated through what remained of the Hawkins Observatory. 6 months after the global conflict had ended, these ruins still held treasures for someone with his expertise. At 34, his military communications background made him one of the few people who understood the value of what others considered junk. "Should be just ahead," he muttered. Following the faded floor plan he'd recovered from a government archive, the observatory's primary transmission room had been specially built lined walls, independent power systems, and equipment designed to send signals deeper into space than any civilian facility. The door to the transmission room hung askew on a single hinge. Ethan slipped inside, flashlight beam cutting through darkness to reveal a scene of surprising order. Unlike the rest of the observatory, this room appeared nearly untouched by the destruction that had claimed the rest of the. Structured in the center stood a device unlike anything he'd encountered before. Not quite a radio, not quite a satellite uplink, something hybrid and unusual. The casing was partially melted on one side, but the core components seemed intact. "What were you trying to talk to?" he wondered aloud, running his fingers along the smooth metal surface. The design was both familiar and alien recognizable. Components arranged in configurations that made no engineering sense. Ethan set down his pack and pulled out his tools. The logical part of his brain told him to strip the valuable parts and move on. Copper wiring alone would fetch enough to eat for a week. But curiosity, the same trait that had kept him alive, when more cautious technicians had withered in post-war depression, pushed him to understand rather than dismantle. Hours passed as Ethan meticulously cleaned connections, replaced fried circuits with spares from his collection, and puzzled over the machine's purpose. Sweat dripped from his forehead despite the autumn chill. The transmitter's design was elegant but puzzling, like someone had combined Earth's technology with theoretical concepts from scientific journals as the sun began to set. Casting long shadows through the broken ceiling, Ethan connected the final wire to his portable power cell. The transmitter hummed to life, indicators glowing with soft blue light. "Let's see what you've got," he whispered, adjusting dials and watching energy readings fluctuate. The machine drew power hungrily, more than seemed reasonable for its size. He tried standard frequencies, hearing nothing but static. Military channels yielded the same emptiness. On impulse, he tuned to frequencies no practical communication would use, ranges so high they were considered useless for terrestrial purposes. At first, nothing. Then, as he turned to pack up for the night, a sound emerged from the speaker, not static, but a pattern. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses again. Ethan froze. The sequence repeated, unmistakably deliberate. He fumbled for his notepad, recording the pattern as it changed. Not random noise, this was language, or at least an attempt at communication. His heart raced as he connected his analyzer to the output, watching as the software attempted to decipher the signal. The screen flickered, characters forming slowly, Ichi Lolo. Ethan stared in disbelief. Someone or something was responding to a transmitter that shouldn't be working at all, with trembling fingers. He activated the input module and typed, "Who is this?" The pause felt eternal. Then the reply came, each word materializing on his screen like a revelation. "My name is Nadia. I've been waiting for someone to hear me." Whispers across the void. Morning light filtered through the broken observatory dome as Ethan jolted awake, stiff from sleeping against the wall. The transmitter still hummed quietly, its blue lights pulsing steadily. Last night hadn't been a dream. He checked his screen. New messages had arrived while he slept. Are you still there? Please respond. I don't have much time. Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm here. Who are you really? Where are you transmitting from? The response came almost immediately. My name is Nadia Kell. I'm aboard the research vessel Artemis, currently in decaying orbit around Earth. I am not from your world. He laughed nervously. Right, and I'm the King of England. Your planet doesn't have kings anymore. England is governed by a parliamentary system with a constitutional monarchy. Ethan stopped laughing. Either this was an elaborate prank by someone with access to encyclopedic knowledge, or ... prove you're in space, he typed. Minutes later, coordinates appeared on his screen, followed by point any astronomical equipment at these coordinates. You'll see my ship reflecting sunlight during your dawn and dusk periods. Ethan rummaged through the observatory debris, finding a damaged telescope. After hasty repairs and alignment, he directed it toward the coordinates as the sun began rising. A glint appeared exactly where predicted too fast and bright to be a satellite. It's too controlled to be debris. His hand shook as he returned to the transmitter. I see something. Why contact me? Your transmitter is unique, designed by my people, modified by yours. I've been broadcasting for months since my ship was damaged. You're the first to fix one of our communication devices. Ethan leaned back, processing this information. What happened to your ship? Micrometeoroid collision damaged our propulsion and life support. I'm the only survivor. Something in the clinical way she described her situation alone, surrounded by dead crewmates, struck Ethan deeply. He knew isolation. After the war, he'd retreated from what remained of society, finding comfort in abandoned technology rather than rebuilding communities. I'm sorry about your crew, he typed. A long pause followed. Thank you. It's been 73 days since I last spoke to another sentient being. They exchanged messages throughout the day. Nadia explained her mission: scientific exploration from a world she called Lumina, orbiting a star beyond Earth's astronomical catalogs. Her people had been observing Earth for centuries, occasionally leaving technology like the transmitter for when humanity was ready for contact. The damage is getting worse, she wrote that evening. Oxygen recyclers are failing. Without help, I have perhaps 3 weeks remaining. Ethan stared at the words, feeling unexpected anxiety. This stranger from the stars was becoming real to him, not an abstraction, but a person facing death alone. Can you land the ship? He asked, with guidance. Yes. But your authorities would detect and intercept me. I've monitored your military channels. Your species fears what it doesn't understand. Ethan couldn't argue. Post-war paranoia had only heightened xenophobia. I'll help you, he typed, surprising himself with his certainty. Why would you risk yourself for me? Ethan considered the question, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Why indeed? He finally answered with simple honesty. Because no one should die alone among the stars. Trust in the unknown. 3 days of constant communication had created a routine. Ethan would wake at dawn, check for Nadia's overnight messages, and spend hours discussing everything from technical specifications for landing to philosophical differences between their worlds. He'd moved his tent inside the transmission room, unwilling to risk missing any critical communications. Tell me about yourself, Nadia's message read this morning. Not just your skills. You, Ethan Reed, hesitated. Personal history wasn't his favorite topic. Former military communications specialist. After the war, I became a scavenger, finding and repurposing technology. Not much else to tell. You're being evasive. I've shared the biology of my species, the death of my crewmates, and the mathematics of interspatial travel. You can tell me why you choose to be alone. Her directness was unsettling. Ethan sighed and began typing. I had a wife, Josephine. She was a doctor at a field hospital near Damascus when it was hit. After that, people seemed ... unnecessary. Technology makes sense. It breaks, you fix it. People break in ways you can't repair. Nadia's response took longer than usual. I understand loss. My life partner died during an earlier expedition. Among my kind, such bonds are rare and precious. Something warm flickered in Ethan's chest recognition, perhaps. He found himself describing the small cabin he'd built in the mountains. Miles from the nearest settlement, their conversation shifted. When Nadia sent schematics for a guidance system, she needed him to build something to help her navigate the ship to a remote landing site. These components I can't just find them in ruins, he typed. You'll need to enter a population center. There's an engineering facility in what you call New Denver that would have what we need. Ethan hadn't entered a major settlement in over a year. The prospect made him uneasy, but he began packing essential gear nonetheless. As he prepared to leave the observatory, the transmitter emitted a warning tone. Nadia's message was urgent. Detection, alertial vehicle approaching your location. Military signature, Ethan cursed, grabbing his binoculars. A helicopter appeared on the horizon, making a direct line for the observatory. Someone had noticed the unusual signals. I need to move. Now, he typed quickly. Take the transmitter's core module, the cylindrical component with blue markings. It contains our communication matrix. I can guide you through rebuilding a smaller version. Ethan worked quickly, disconnecting the core as instructed and securing it in his pack just as the helicopter's rotors became audible. I'm leaving. We'll contact when safe, he typed, and slipped out through a service tunnel he'd discovered days earlier. From the hillside, he watched uniformed personnel secure the observatory. Their efficiency confirmed his fears. These weren't curious scientists, but military intelligence. That night, huddled in a cave 5 miles away, Ethan used his portable equipment to construct a rudimentary connection to the core module. His hands worked instinctively, combining Nadia's instructions with his own expertise. The makeshift device glowed to life. Weaker than before, but functional. I'm here, he typed. I was worried, came the immediate response. My sensors showed they've taken the transmitter housing. They're attempting to trace our communications. I'll keep moving, but I need to know something first. Why me? There must be others more qualified to help you. The pause lasted nearly a minute, because when I scanned your brain patterns through the transmitter, I saw something rare: capacity for trust after devastation. And because in 73 days of monitoring Earth's communications, yours was the only voice that sounded as alone as mine. Countdown to contact the abandoned train tunnel provided perfect cover while Ethan assembled the guidance system. 5 days had passed since his escape from the observatory. 5 days of dodging patrols and raiding electronics shops in smaller towns outside New Denver. Connection established, Ethan reported. Watching the small device synchronize with Nadia's ship systems, I'm receiving your positioning data now. It's excellent, Nadia responded. With proper guidance, I can navigate atmospheric entry. Have you secured the landing zone? Ethan glanced at his maps. There's an old mining complex in the mountains. Remote, abandoned, with an open plateau nearby. I've marked it for you. Their communications had grown more personal as the countdown to landing approached. Last night, Nadia had sent sound files, music from her world-haunting melodies that used tonal ranges just at the edge of human hearing. In return, Ethan had played his worn guitar into the transmitter, simple folk songs his father had taught him. The authorities have expanded their search radius, Nadia warned. Their communications indicate they've detected your power signatures twice. Ethan nodded grimly. I can't stay in one place too long, but I'll be at the landing site tomorrow night. He didn't mention his growing doubts, moments of clarity when he questioned his sanity. Was he really helping an alien visitor? Or had isolation finally broken something essential in his mind? The technical complexity of their exchange argued against delusion, but the improbability of it all sometimes overwhelmed him. I've been thinking about our meeting, Nadia wrote, interrupting his thoughts. There are things you should know about my physical form. It's like what? Ethan typed, suddenly apprehensive. My species evolved in different conditions. Our atmosphere contained higher levels of methane and nitrogen. I'll need to wear adaptive equipment to breathe your air. You'll be in a spacesuit. A transparent facial apparatus only. But my appearance or facial structure, skin pigmentation is quite different from humans. I don't want to frighten you, Ethan smiled. After everything we've discussed, you think your face will scare me off? Biological responses can override intellectual acceptance. I'll manage, he assured her. 24 hours until landing. Get some rest. That night, as he lay awake watching stars through a crack in the tunnel ceiling, Ethan realized how completely Nadia had reordered his existence. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a solitary scavenger, touching the past rather than building a future. Now, he was risking his life for someone he'd never seen, whose voice he'd never heard except through text. More troubling were the feelings developing connection, concern, anticipation that went beyond mere assistance. He'd opened himself to Nadia in ways he hadn't with anyone since Josephine. By morning, military vehicles patrolled the highways visible from his lookout point. They knew something was happening. The final journey to the landing site would require careful navigation through monitored territory. As dusk approached, Ethan activated the guidance system one last time. Beginning descent procedures, Nadia confirmed. Atmospheric entry in 40 minutes. Are you in position? Ethan looked across the vast plateau, equipment set up behind the cover of rock formations. I'm here. Ready when you are? Ethan, her message came slowly. If something goes wrong during landing, it won't, he interrupted. But if it does, these weeks getting to know you, they've been worth it. The sky darkened as night fell across the mountains. Ethan's equipment tracked Nadia's ship entering the atmosphere. A bright streak, visible only through his specialized lenses. The countdown had begun. Beyond the stars, the ship resembled a teardrop of liquid metal, surprisingly small for an interstellar vessel. Steam rose from its surface as it cooled in the night air, the landing remarkably silent for something that had just crossed the atmosphere. Ethan stood transfixed. Guidance equipment forgotten in his hands. Military helicopters would be tracking the entry signature. They had minutes, perhaps less. A seam appeared in the ship's smooth hull, widening into an opening from which soft blue light emanated. Ethan moved forward cautiously, heart hammering in his chest. A figure emerged, humanoid, but unmistakably not human. Taller and more slender than Earth's people, with skin that shimmered with a faint bioluminescence in subtle patterns. As Nadia had warned, a transparent apparatus covered the lower portion of her face, but her eyes were visibly slit pupils, an extraordinary shade between violet and indigo. She stepped onto Earth soil and spoke. Her voice transmitted through a device at her throat, deeper than he'd imagined but melodious. Ethan Reed. Nadia, he responded, her name feeling strange when spoken aloud after weeks of written communication. They stood merely observing each other for moments that stretched into infinity. Then Nadia extended her hand, a gesture she must have learned from human records, with 6 slender fingers, slightly longer than human proportions. Ethan accepted the offered hand. Her skin was warmer than he expected, smooth like polished stone but yielding to his touch. You're not running away, she observed. Should I be? Many would. Fear of difference seems universal among conscious species. Ethan smiled. I've had weeks to prepare for meeting someone with purple eyes and extra fingers. Besides, after everything we've shared, your appearance seems secondary. In the distance, helicopter rotors became audible. Nadia turned toward her ship. I've transferred essential supplies and navigation data. The vessel's autopilot will lead them away while we escape. From compartments in her suit, she produced a small device, pressing it into Ethan's palm. Communication technology from my world. It will allow us to stay connected, regardless of distance. You're not leaving? He asked, surprised. My ship is damaged beyond repair. Return to my world is impossible. Her expression shifted subtly, patterns of light beneath her skin changing. If you're still willing to help me, I choose to stay. Ethan considered the implications. Harboring a being from another world, evading authorities, building a life around an impossible secret. It should have terrified him. Instead, he felt more alive than he had in years. My cabin in the mountains, he said. It's small, remote, defensible. We can modify it for your atmospheric needs. Nadia nodded, removing a pack from her ship. I have technology that can help us remain undetected, and knowledge to trade for supplies when needed. Ship's engines hummed to life again, rising gracefully before accelerating eastward, a decoy that would keep military forces occupied for days. Meanwhile, Ethan led Nadia toward the hidden trail that would take them into the wilderness. As they hiked beneath stars that one of them called home, Ethan realized they were both exiles now, she from a world beyond reach, he from a society he'd rejected. Yet in their shared isolation, they'd found something neither had expected: connection. "What happens next?" Nadia asked as dawn approached. Her breathing apparatus glistening with condensation, Ethan considered the mountain path ahead. The cabin that would need adaptation, the future neither of them could predict. "We survive," he said simply. "We learn from each other. And we see what grows from this impossible meeting." Nadia's eyes crinkled in what he was learning to recognize as a smile behind her breathing apparatus. She reached for his hand again, her 6 fingers intertwining with his 5. "A worthy experiment," she agreed. As they walked together into the uncertain future, leaving parallel footprints in the earth, one set from this world, one from beyond the stars.